to another episode of Tomes and Tunes. This is episode 68. 68 episodes. 68 of talking with songwriters from around the world. It's been a whirlwind of a year and a half and a quarter. I don't know what it's been, but this is one of those shining silver lining things that has come out of the constraints of the COVID time. So here we are with Tomes and Tunes. I am Arielle Silver, and I am sitting right here in my she shed in my backyard in Los Angeles. And this is pretty much where I have been for a long time now, 10 by 12 space. And every Thursday, here we go, we talk with songwriters about the other thing that I love and so many other songwriters love, which is literature of some kind or another. So some weeks it is literary fiction, sometimes it's commercial fiction, sometimes memoir, sometimes self-help, sometimes spiritual books, sometimes poetry, sometimes philosophy. There's been all kinds of stuff that has come into this show over the last 67 weeks, and this is week 68, so we'll see what my guest this week has in store for us. My guest this week, by the way, is Rick Drost, and I love the word Cantabrigian. He lives in Cambridge, Mass. He is not from there originally, but we share a little piece of that because I used to live in that area and love it. It's close to my heart, the whole Boston area. I lived there for many, many years. That's kind of where I got my start as a songwriter, actually. So it's really fun to have a Cantabrigian on the show today. Rick and I met, well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. First, I want to tell you that I am very happy to be an official Shub's Capo artist, and I love my capos. And so I just want to give a little shout out to Shub because these are awesome if you guys are looking for a great capo that keeps your guitar in tune even as you change keys. This is it. It has a little adjustable thing on the back so that you clamp it on and then you can kind of fine tune it the way that violinists can fine tune their strings. Another thing I should tell you is that I live very close to the airport, so there's an airplane going overhead right now and I'm sure we'll hear others. Something else I want to tell you, for those of you who are listening live or pretty close to when this show has broadcast, I'm playing a show in Los Angeles area at a private home on September 19th. And so if you would like information about that, go to that link that's scrolling across the screen there. In fact, all of my tour dates, live stream or live in-person shows are at that link. Not next Sunday, a couple of days from now, so today's Thursday, a couple of days from now, I am playing actually a live on radio interview / show for an East Coast Massachusetts area radio station called WATD. I am playing for the Twilight Music Series. That's on Sunday. So again, information about that at the link that's scrolling by. And that evening, a little bit after the show, I'm going to dash across town into Hollywood to play a Joni Mitchell tribute show at Hotel Cafe. Very excited. I'm going to be playing 2 songs. I'll have an upright bass player joining me for one of those songs, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I've never done this song live before, and I'm very excited. Excited. So that's what I got. What else do I need to tell you? I'll remember by the time the hour is up, and if not, I'll catch you next week. Without further ado, let me bring on Rick Drost. Rick!
Hiya!
So nice to see you.
Good to see you.
I wanted to wait till you were on screen to give a proper introduction because I first met you and first encountered your music pretty much within the same 10 minutes. And it was in a small hotel room. This was not a sordid meeting. This was for the Far West Folk Alliance, the Folk Alliance Region West Conference in 2019. You had flown across the country to attend this conference, and you were in one of the makeshift venues that the Folk Alliance regional branches and the full Folk Alliance conference tend to do. We'll see how it goes during COVID time. Right now, all of the regions are doing virtual conferences. But in the past, they've converted hotel rooms into venues. So like floor 10 on a hotel, it's like room 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. It's like every single one of those is a little a tiny music venue. And you and I were in the same one. And I remember you playing the Lobster song that day. That was my first encounter with you. Do you remember that
Well,
conference?
I remember the conference well, and Deb Seymour was helping me
That's right.
run the room.
Oh my gosh.
We were standing in for Nancy Emmerich,
That's
who
right.
had some medical problems right then. So, and that was my first Far West, and
I was going to
I
ask you.
loved everybody I met.
Well, I think the
Uh,
feeling is mutual because I've been hearing a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, you're having Rick on the show. I'm so excited."
oh,
So,
good.
you're like a favorite of a lot of
Hope I
people's
can
as well.
get back there. I just such a mellow conference, and you know,
It is a mellow conference. Well, they're doing it virtually this year. Are
yeah,
you
oh
are you
yeah,
doing the virtual
I'm
one?
signed up. Yep,
Great.
I'm signed up. I haven't. Gee, did I? I think there's a Facebook post that I just saw that I'm supposed to tell people that I'm coming.
Oh, haha. Well, there
Uh,
you go.
yeah, that's the one that Shanna was.
Ah,
I don't know whether I answered that post. I guess I'll answer it again.
put it on the to-do list. We won't
Yeah,
worry about Facebook right now, except for the people
right.
that are on Facebook right now and tuning in. Hi, Tina Ross. Nice to see you.
Hey,
And
Tina.
anybody else who is tuning in, please say hi on YouTube or Facebook. Would love to be able to say hi. Um, so, um, Rick, gosh, there was something. Oh, in Colorado, in the green room just before the show, you mentioned that you have also gone out to Colorado for music. And I just imagine you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I just imagine you in your retirement have just been hopping all around the country, pretty much following opportunities to hear music and play music and connect with musicians and connect with audiences. I mean, pre-COVID, I should say, pre-COVID. Is
Yeah,
that what things were looking like for you? Because you were a software engineer before that,
yeah.
right?
I was a software engineer, and I retired in I don't know 2015, early 2016. And my first bucket list item was to make an album,
Oh my gosh.
and that came out in 2017. And then the next bucket list item, which took much longer than I thought, was to redo the house and sell off the upper floor. And
Oh
that
wow.
finished in June. And the last few months of that, I pulled back a little even from Zooming. I continued Zooming through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Uh, and, but I didn't push as much. Um, I didn't push as much to get, but there are all these great, there's Southwest, there's one in the Southwest open mic that does a Thursday through Saturday thing. You can sound a Southwest Desert open mic, I think, or Desert Southwest, yeah. And there are wonderful one. There's a wonderful one I just discovered in New Jersey through Tina, who's listening. Thank you, Tina. So I've been zooming around, but at a slower speed. Not, but now that the house is finished, I'm trying to get my momentum back up. So, oh, did we lose you, audio wise?
Yes, you did. I hit mute
Oh,
when the
oh, you
airplane
hit
went
mute.
over. I tried to anyway.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No,
So
that's all
when
right.
so when you say that you were getting the house ready to sell off the is it a two-family house?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
always been a
okay?
two-family. The renters left, and I started to redo the first floor where I wasn't living, so I could move down, more
Oh,
space upstairs, and then and I was the general contractor, so I had to find people and keep them. And fortunately, I finally found good people who
yeah,
knew what they wanted, what was involved. So
yeah.
it went well, but it took longer than.
And was that happening during COVID, during your
Yeah, oh, that
quarantines?
complicated things,
Yeah.
complicated deliveries, it complicated. You had to keep the crew small. There were a bunch of Cambridge COVID restrictions about record keeping and things like that. And, kept up with those. But, you know, uh, but now I've got two songs almost ready to go in the can. So
To record.
yeah, to record since since July, and I'm happy with that. I mean, that's progress because I didn't write anything for a year or so anyway,
Yeah.
or maybe two. So I'm now looking for more gigs and mostly Zooming though, because I've
Yeah.
set up and canceled 3 trips now this summer already.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I don't know if you caught last week's episode, but I was talking with Laura Joy, who's an Arizona-based artist, and
Right, I know Laura.
she just had her Hawaii dates canceled, and
Oh,
she
how
just got back from
sad.
Chicago, and she
Right,
was just feeling. I got the feeling that she was feeling really awesome. You know, that high that you feel. You know, like this
right,
is your life's work, and this is, you know, like your days are filled with meaning because you're able to do it. And then, you know, her Hawaii stuff was canceled, and so now she's back in Arizona, and she's like, "What am I doing?" You know, now. It's a
same thing.
weird emotional um,
Right.
roller coaster,
And
right?
everybody seems to be getting hit with it. You know,
Yeah.
people are even posting that, you know, if you feel bad, don't worry, it's normal.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So,
Yeah. Well, you are I mean I feel like you're not a stranger to this idea of waiting though because you had this other career and you said that your bucket list was to make an album. So it sounds like I mean if something's on a bucket list, it's because you're anticipating it coming in the future. You
right,
have to delay it for some reason. And for a lot of people that delay has to do with professional or familial
right.
reasons, right? So, you know, so I'm guessing that you were waiting to do the music thing.
Yeah, to be
Um,
free for it.
yeah,
And, you know, because, you know, I've had some time to reflect and I can see all my life I was
mm,
pretty dedicated to whatever my career was, you know, whatever was giving me money to live and interested me. And I had a lot of fun during the career, a lot of good work and fun projects. But oh, I'm glad I can do this. All the while, I kept doing a little
yeah,
bit of music of various kinds, choral and group, and then solo finally.
mm,
So I'm, you know, happy to be where I am right now, which is essentially out of debt
ah,
since college,
yeah,
and able to, if a tune comes to mind, I can go to the piano and plunk it out. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Um, so speaking of college, you and I have another connection, which we just discovered recently. You sent me a message saying, "Hey," and this is funny because there was another former Tones and Tunes guest who I also had a similar connection with. The connection with you is that my college roommate lives in the house behind yours.
Right, right. Mm, she's lovely, and we haven't talked much. And then I thought, well, I put a fence up. I thought we would get to know each other a little, but the fence hasn't.
Wait, you put the fence up in order to get to know your neighbors?
Well,
Usually people
no,
put the
no,
fence
but
up
I
to keep
got
them
to
away.
know her as we were arranging, you know,
Oh,
what do you want and what don't you want,
mm,
and because I just wanted to, but the yard had to be fenced to sell it, to look, you know, like it was a yard,
right, right.
and but yeah, she's a very interesting person, and she was your roommate at Brandeis, and
Yep.
uh, I worked at Brandeis for several years before you
Oh,
got there.
oh. Wow. Okay.
So that's a kind of a connection or
Oh, that's
a
interesting.
miss.
Right. Well, my guest a while back on this show, Lisa Bastoni, has a
Oh,
connection to Mary via Mary's husband, Josh, who I also went to college with. The
ah,
three of us were in school at the same time. Um, Here goes another airplane. Um, but Lisa and Josh have played music together, and
oh, neat.
I don't know if Josh is still playing organ for the Boston Red Sox,
Yep,
but he had been doing that for a
yep,
long time. I love it.
yeah.
See, it is a small world
It
after
is a
all.
small world. I didn't know the Josh Lisa connection, but
Yeah,
she's one. I just heard her over at the Burn a little while ago. And,
yeah,
so intimate, pulls you in, you know, with her songs.
absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
beautiful songwriter. The Burn. So I used to love the Burn. I would go down there to hear. So this was years ago when I lived in Boston. The Burn is in Davis
Davis
Square.
Square,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I love that this is one of the things that's so great about Boston. You just walk down Mass Ave and you go from square to square to square, and each has its own little personality and um, great spots at each place. And a lot of them have really great music venues as well. So the Burn over in Davis Square. Is the Someday Cafe still there?
Someday
The Someday
Cafe
Cafe was
in Davis
in
Square.
Davis
Oh,
Square. Do you remember that?
uh, gee, I don't. I think
Okay.
it rings a bell, but I haven't seen it.
The
You
once
know, you know,
once Someday in the Past Cafe
yeah,
now. But when I used to go down to the Burn back then, it had, if I'm remembering correctly, it sort of had three sections. You walked in, and often there were Irish session players
right.
right by the door, and then
Yep, we're
there was
still
sort of
doing
like
that.
a middle place where there were booths, and then there was a back room where there was live music.
Right.
Um, but now I've heard that there's music outdoors. Is there another part of the Burn?
Well, with there's a big parking lot out back, and
Oh,
somehow they got to take over the spaces. And well, because of COVID,
yeah,
you want to have outdoor shows if you can,
yeah,
and that will be impractical, you know,
soon.
in a couple of months.
Yeah,
But I got to see an outdoor show there, and it was fun. So they've got that going, and sometimes an outdoor show, if it's raining, will move indoors.
oh,
They seem to um, they seem to prefer the outdoor shows for larger groups, you know,
for sure.
and which is wise. Yeah, they're at the forefront of requiring vaccinations for clubs and requiring masks when not eating. So that's good.
I know that Club Passim in Cambridge is requiring proof of
Right.
vaccination,
Same
and
thing, Burn and Passim, and now the Armory has, well, there's a new directive in Somerville that came out a couple of weeks ago, and the Armory has followed suit. Cafe at the Armory, which is a nice place that a lot of us have played in. Uh, so it's moving towards being careful.
and what do you think about that as a audience member and also as a performer? How do you feel about required vaccination for venues?
Uh, I think I wouldn't sing indoors unless they're doing something about requiring vaccinations
Yeah.
in general. I'm a little long in the tooth and at the top of the, I had a long illness a while ago, which I've recovered from, but they always tell me, get your vaccine as soon as possible. And,
Yeah,
it comes up. And so I think now it does tend to scare people. It keeps the audiences, the live audiences, lower.
yeah,
On the other hand, if you have facilities to go online, you can maybe reach more people. Certainly people from other parts of the country that I've met through going to open mics and things,
Yeah.
online open mics. So we, yeah, we almost prefer online, but then, well, you never know how many people are going to show up, and you don't know how many people are there really. So it's not
Yeah.
like we prefer to, and especially now we're doing, setting up a show, we're going to do it hybrid, it looks like. All the singers will go, which is to a sound studio, recording studio. And we'll stream the show from there. So at least the performers can interact, which is nice because
Right.
we've been in little windows.
Right. Yeah. I watched a do you know the trio Nobody's Girl? Are you familiar with them? It's Rebecca Logan,
Right.
Betty Sue, and Grace Pettis.
Yeah, yeah.
I just watched a
right,
show that they did on Zoom, and the three of them were on, and typically they sing harmonies. Their songs are all co-written, and they kind of trade back and forth who's singing the melody, who's singing the harmonies, and there's a lot of movement through the three of them. But I just saw a show where they were separate, and basically Grace would start the song, and then Becca would take the chorus, and
Oh,
then
wow.
Betty Sue would take the next, and it was not seamless, but it was really polished. It was very well done. I was impressed that they were able to do that.
Right.
Only one person
Sang
singing
at a
at
time.
any particular time. Yeah.
Well, they must have practiced that.
They had to have, yeah, yeah.
Well,
They were very polished.
Rebecca really, I was at a surfa and she was staying in the room next to me. So I heard her doing her warm-ups and I said, oh boy, I can't wait to hear her.
That's
She
awesome.
was very thorough.
Yeah.
So that's when I'm sure they worked that out.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So I want to ask you, all of this aside, pragmatic, just like how we're navigating this world as artists. But for you, what else is like? How is life in Cambridge right now? How are you? How are you this summertime? This moving into fall? What does life look like in your corner of the world? Um,
Well, rainy.
yeah.
It's been it's been rainy, but and I haven't gotten out much. I did get to visit my folks on my family on the on Lake Erie for a couple of days, so I got to catch up with cousins and brothers and
Because you're
sisters.
from Buffalo
I'm from
originally, is
Buffalo
that right?
originally, yeah.
That's up there.
But I'm fine in Cambridge and I'm fine alone. And I haven't been getting out as much. One of the big things socially in my life has been with the tennis and swim club, which I was in for 20 years, and it closed down permanently. And then all the tennis people went away. So I can run along the river, which is where I
Yeah.
started running when I got here. And I do that a little. I'm not going out for lunches anywhere near as much as I did before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Find a friend, and everybody's pretty much quieted down.
Yeah.
But I love my little house. I love my clover lawn, and I love being surrounded by all my books.
Yeah.
you know, because of course I've kept them all.
Okay, that's interesting. I want to ask you about that. Do you lend books to people?
I have. My electrician saw a couple of my books and borrowed them, and he brought them back,
Oh, we brought
and
it back.
he's that, yeah, well, uh, but I mean, people, I guess people don't really ask
Hmm.
about that. Uh, but they're prominent here, and I get very, I don't know, I feel very comfortable when I can sit in the chair and look at all these books that, well, you know, some of which I got in high school, uh, and try to remember how I was feeling as I was reading them.
Hmm.
And that's sort of comforting. Now, that isn't the moment is now, but it, I don't know, it supports me
I knew
somehow.
from the moment I first heard your music that you love literature,
Yeah.
or at least poetry. I just knew that. It's apparent in your songwriting. Um, what what kinds of books have you? What do you like? What do you like to
Yeah.
read? What have you
Well,
been reading?
haven't been reading so much. I've been reading nonfiction lately, but
What kind of
to
nonfiction? Meaning like literary narrative, literary nonfiction memoir, or how-tos, or historical.
oh,
You
I
know,
like historical stuff. Okay, I do have some got some criticism books. If I find a poet that I like and somebody, you know, like Wallace Stevens or T.S. Eliot, and somebody comes out with a book, I'll read that. And interestingly enough, Bessel van der Kolk, who is basically a trauma therapist, the body keeps the score, how trauma basically affects you physically.
is that the name of the book? How the body keeps the
The
score?
body keeps the score, yeah. And it starts with a interesting summary of modern psychotherapy, and that helps me understand a lot of what's going on in the world.
Hmm.
So that one, what do I mention? Well, I recently read through Moby Dick again,
Oh yeah.
and I underlined passages, but now I've lost the copy of it. I could have read some of those.
Yeah.
But it started in junior high with Jared Manley Hopkins was the first poet that I really got excited about this short song, a short poem, Spring and Fall, to a young child. And what I liked about it was the internal rhyme, the assonance, the enjambments maybe, going over the line. It just kept moving.
Hmm.
And this is, I don't know whether there's time to read it. It's very short, but maybe people can look it up. But that grabbed me in junior high, and I could think, and by the time I got to college, I think I actually set it to music. But by the time I was in college, well, I loaded up on English and French literature. Discovered T.S. Eliot, Wallace Stevens. Well, Wallace Stevens was a little later, really getting into him. And I've memorized my mantra for years were some long Wallace Stevens poems. the idea of ordering Key West and Sunday morning. And whenever I couldn't sleep or whatever, I would repeat them to myself until I fell asleep. And that was a very effective sort of meditation, if you
Huh.
will.
Yeah.
So I like those a lot. So I kept reading poetry, and I'm in this very active Facebook group called Voices of Poetry. And the moderator posts historical poems and biographies of poets and other people, and then other people post, and you can post your poems if they're published. And I actually got permission to post the lyrics to one of my published songs, because I get to sing for them from time to time. They'll have a musician at their shows. So that kind of keeps me up with poetry.
Are there contemporary poets that you're interested in as well?
Well, there are a few that I've met through the Voices of Poetry. I don't know if you've heard any of them. Neil Silberblad is the moderator. Hughes, now I'm blocking his first name. I've got the book over there. Adam Hughes, John O'Connor, are all, they're people whose books I've bought and I pull out, I take them in my briefcase and read them when I'm on the plane. What's nice about poetry is it can move, idea-wise, it can move faster, more easily than people are used to in songs. It seems like songs
Right.
want to be strophic and want to leave you with this chunk and then maybe a different chunk, but it all comes in chunks and there's a progression.
Right.
And I'm really interested reading these modern poets, how quickly their minds can shift from one thing to another.
Do you feel that readers of poetry versus a listener of a song, so I'm just thinking about the audience for each of those, do you think that as when we're writing poetry or prose, I think this would apply, do you think that we can press our audience a little harder to make the leap between ideas? And in songs, do we have to feed the audience a little more, like put more dots in the image? Do you know? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I know exactly what you mean. And I'm finding now that I'm guilty of over-explaining when I'm writing a song.
Ah,
And that stuff can, as you're editing, advice has been, leave out little words. I just got suggested to remove a because from the
right.
beginning of a line, because
The
you don't
connective
need
words.
it.
You
Yeah,
can
the connective
leave off,
words
right.
that you don't need those anymore.
Right, right.
I always thought you did, or maybe it comes from teaching, that you have to keep, but you have to keep maintaining a stream of logic. I taught math.
Right.
Here's the reason for this. Here's the reason for
This
that.
this then, if then,
Yeah.
because, right.
Right, right.
Whereas with
And
songs, you're saying that you can kind of place this here and this here, and the listener can
the
fill
listener
in that
can fill in, right.
because, or right, those little words.
And I think it's partly because you've got the music,
Yeah.
which is there if it's a consistent, kind of melody, harmony, and of course you need a bridge now. Now,
That is really
I mean,
funny that you.
oh, it doesn't have a bridge. Well,
I
yeah.
had a songwriting teacher say to me, it might have been my very first teacher regarding songs, but at some point he said to me, "You don't write bridges, do you?" And I was like what like because I had grown up I was I mean I my musical frame of reference as a songwriter was not far off from yours. It was Leonard
Hmm.
Cohen, it was Bob Dylan, it
Hmm.
was Joni Mitchell, and that's
Right.
what my parents had listened to, and that's when I started writing songs. That was sort of where I
Right.
was kind of stepping from that stone into my own voice. And what's a bridge?
Yeah, yeah, and
So
Joni
that's
Mitchell
funny.
songs, lots
Yeah.
of them don't have bridges. Somebody just
But
posted the first time ever I saw your face, Ewan McCall's song, as one of the best songs ever written. There's no bridge.
But the thing is, modern day listener does need something different to happen. And it doesn't have to, I mean, you don't have to necessarily write that bridge. It could be in the production.
Right.
But there does need to be something that's different
Something
than
a
what they've
little
already heard
flavor,
to
a
sort of
little
wake them up.
sorbet, or what is
Right,
it?
exactly. Like refresh the palate. Yeah.
Yeah, palate refresher. And this song that I'm still trying to finish on guitar, but I've had the words for a while. Well, I didn't have a bridge in it, and I started playing it once I got enough, and I got through the second verse, and I said, geez, this should go somewhere now. So I put a kind of bridge in.
Right.
So I think, yeah, people want that now,
Yeah.
modern taste, but it's not necessary. I mean, look at Joni. But, well, she has bridges in some of the songs and
True.
some of them not.
True. But also look at the fact that everything evolves, and when
Right,
she was writing a long time ago, and
right,
the listening audience has evolved, and music has evolved since then as well.
right,
Um, um, a bridge is not it's not a place where you kind of live. You don't live on a bridge.
right,
It's like you're kind of it takes you from one place to another. It's this other third, like from point A to point B, and then the third thing, the C,
right.
is in between. I agree with what Tina is saying here in the comments. Thanks for chiming in, Tina. She says, I think a song goes by quickly without the reference of a poem if it is being read at least. So we as songwriters are obliged to fill in the details as the listener doesn't have time to think as deeply. And I think that that's the thing about music is that it moves
Yeah,
past in time, whereas a poem, when I'm reading it on the page, or even
yeah,
when I read poetry aloud to other people, which I do in my yoga classes sometimes, I tend to repeat, even if it's not written on the page in the poem. I tend to go back and repeat certain lines because in a song we do get that repetition either from the refrain or the chorus, or sometimes from other devices that the songwriter is using. But you know, in a poem, it's not going to go frequently, not going to go back to that chorus. So when I'm reading a poem aloud, or even when I'm reading it just to myself, I'll circle back and reread. It's like I go 2 steps forward or 2 lines forward, and then I'll go back for a line, and then 3 steps, and then back.
hmm.
So,
And I like songs. Spent more time listening lately, going out and hearing people, or hearing people online, and the open mics. You online, you hear lots of people and different
yeah.
styles. So, and I've noticed, well, there's a lot of, I love songs where there's a repeated line, say at the end of each chorus,
Mm,
where somebody, but the line takes on a little different meaning each time,
yeah.
uh, because it's being sung after this verse. Each
Yeah.
verse has,
Now you
and
have new information, and so it
right now you
colors
have it
that
right.
line.
That I like, and modern music, right? That's a good point. It you hear a lot more repetition than you used to.
Right. Yeah.
Again, look at Joni or Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
The Stranger song, straight through,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, Simon Petty, he was a guest recently, and he says Neil Finn songs usually have the highest note and the emotional core of the song in the bridge, and that's just like like an amp. What is it? Upping the ante. Up, 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 and then you get to the bridge, and it's actually a great place in the song
To
to
yeah,
deliver
here's
that.
something changed, and now you can get
Yeah.
to the money piece,
Yeah.
the
Thanks,
point.
Simon, for chiming in there.
Hi, Simon. I heard him last week.
Oh,
He
he's
was
fantastic,
bowled
right?
over. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll sing the praises of Simon Petty and Celia Chavez, his duo partner.
Right. I haven't
Um,
heard her yet.
They're great. And they were both guests on the show recently. I can't remember the episode number, but very, very recently, last month, I think, August. Gosh,
Yeah,
we're already
well,
in
Simon
September.
was before Laura Joy. And,
Oh, you know my schedule. That's
Oh,
fantastic. That's right. Okay, perfect. Okay, Rick. So Tomes and Tunes. I always ask my guests if they will share something that they're reading now, and if they'll share an excerpt or something. So what would you like to share with us? A little bit of like show and tell.
well, I keep going back to this T.S. Eliot poem, which actually gave
I just
rise-
realized with this show and tell idea, you guys, I never got show and tell in school. I missed it. I never
Oh.
had that. So maybe that's what this
Wow.
show is all about. I'm like just recapturing that missed moment. Show and tell.
I guess well, if you want something that I am absolutely right now reading,
There are
'cause
no
it's
rules.
completely-
There
oh,
are
there are
no
no
rules.
okay.
The only rule is there are no rules. Except I have to stay on my chair. I'm sliding off it.
Right. Well, let's do this. This T.S. Eliot's Burnt Norton, which is the first of the four quartets, and I reread it a few years ago, and it gave rise. Basically, not too many people know this, but it gave rise to the song I want to sing. So that makes
Oh,
some
perfect.
sense.
Yeah.
So, but it's a little long. But let me read a few excerpts. And when I read it, I said, "Wow, there's a lot of quotes from this poem that have made their way into other pieces of literature." So it's a very influential poem. But I also said, well, I can't, it resonates with me, but I can't for the life of me tell about, I wouldn't be able to give a talk on what it means.
T.S. Eliot, man.
But I did decide that it was my right, since it resonated with somehow to pick out the parts that really resonated with me and try to do a song. So the first, it opens with time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable. What might have been is an abstraction remaining a perpetual possibility only in a world of speculation. What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. Now, a great deal of circularity there. Footfalls echo in the memory down the passage we did not take, towards the door we never opened, into the rose garden. My words echo thus in your mind. So, and then there's another little, at the end of the section, kind of sum it up. time past and time future, what might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. So there he repeats. So that must be meaningful because he repeats that line from the first few lines of the poem. What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. Now the line that grabbed me, and yeah, I can read. Yikes. The line that really grabbed me and turned into, well, there's more of this later in the poem. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point there the dance is. But neither arrest nor movement, and do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered. Neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point, there would be no dance, and there is only the dance. Well, and then the one last thing that ends this section. Time past and time future allow but a little consciousness. To be conscious is not to be in time, but only in time can the moment in the rose garden, the moment in the arbor where the rain beat, the moment in the drafty church at smokefall be remembered, involved with past and future. Only through time is time conquered. So I'll stop there, and I mean, and it gets even more obscure towards the end. But this idea about getting to a still point where the dance is. Oh yeah, there was something, again, there was something about a Chinese jar which is turning in its stillness. All these, well, it might be pretty zen when you think of it, the whole poem.
I'm hearing that, and I'm intrigued actually to try to read it again. I haven't tried that in a long time, but it does sound to me, based on the pieces that you just shared, that this is a poem about, all the things that, like the subjunctive tense, the other paths that might have been taken, and the fact that, the past doesn't exist right now, and it's the same as the future doesn't exist right now, except that they both do exist in our minds right here in this present moment, and this is the moment in which this is the only moment in which we can understand them. I'm thinking about two other things as you read that. One is that the writer Emily Rapp Black has a book called The Still Point of the Turning World.
Oh, no fooling.
And
well, that's when I was, okay, we're writing
it's
here
actually,
down.
it's funny that book, I mean, it's deeply sad, and it's thematically similar to the song that I'm going to play actually today. But the book is about her son who, she had all the regular tests done when she was pregnant to, all the genetic testing that they do. But still, her son was born with Tay-Sachs disease. And so he ended up, it's a fatal disease, and I don't think that you can live past the age of 3. And so her son was born and developed over the first couple of months as she would have expected from her growing infant. But then something seemed to have stopped in his development. And that was when she found out that he had Tay-Sachs. And so then for the rest of his life, she knew what the result was going to be. She knew that he wasn't going to live, but she still had to learn how to mother him and how to be the best mother and how to love him. It's a deeply, deeply sad story. It's her memoir, but she's a beautiful writer, and it's a memoir that's difficult to read, but she's grappling with these questions: how to care for her son, how to grapple with the future that won't be, how to understand, how to be a mother in that way. So it's called The Still Point of the Turning World.
Well, I'll have to look that up for sure.
Yeah. The other thing I'm thinking about is I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a TED Talk, and I believe that the presenter's name is Phuc. Fuck is how he pronounces it. Tran, I think, is his last name, and it's a TED Talk on the subjunctive tense. And it's really wonderful. He explores the fact that in English we have this tense. Not all languages have it. And so he explores the idea that we're shaped by our language, that we can imagine the paths not taken because our language allows us to do so. What would have been versus what is or what
Right.
did happen, so it's a great TED Talk, and like all TED Talks, it's no more than 20 minutes at the most, so something to watch as well.
Good. Thank you. Well,
Yeah,
good.
thank
Two
you,
more-
Rick. You
two
got
more
me
references.
all your poem share got me kind of sparks, little
Good.
flints rubbing
That's
against
what this
each other,
is
a little bit of
for.
a spark. Exactly. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Should I share what I'm reading?
Sure.
Okay. I am reading a novel by the writer Natasha Dion. The book is called Grace. I think that she has a new book out right now. I saw her posting today on Facebook about it. I think there was a very positive review in the magazine Essence. So I'm excited to find out more about that. But meanwhile, I happen to be reading her book Grace right now. Oh, before I go into this, I just want to peek over to what Tina Ross has to say.
Okay.
Because I think she's responding to your poem. She says, it's interesting, in craniosacral therapy, there's a technique where you wait for the still point, a slowing down, calming of the nervous system, where parasympathetics come into dominance and releases the body's restoration. I love that, Tina. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend, a singer friend, who runs a massage therapy studio called The Still Point.
There you go.
And I discovered that after I brought it. So I knew it was a term there, but
Yeah.
now Tina has
Maybe it's
given us a
taken
full
from-
explanation.
Still point.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's taken from T.S. Eliot. Okay, so Grace. So I've been reading this book. I'm always reading a few books, so sometimes it's a little bit slow going because they kind of rotate, depending on how I'm feeling and what I need at the moment. But I turned down this page because I thought it was appropriate to the time that we're in right now, for those folks who might come from family traditions similar to mine. So wait, let me find. So this is this book takes place over a few different within an era just before the Emancipation Proclamation and just after, and there are two main characters. One of them is a ghost, and she is the mother of the other one. And the ghost was running away from the plantation upon which she was enslaved. And the child is very light-skinned, and she was sort of taken in by a kind person. So in any case, it kind of bounces between their stories, but right now we're in the year 1847, and the character has ended up in a brothel, and she's, I think she's working as a maid, basically, in this brothel. And the brothel is owned by a woman named Cynthia. And we don't know much about Cynthia yet, but in this chapter, the musk of burning wax is seeping through Cynthia's bedroom door. I knock. No answer. I press my ear against the cool door. Can't hear nothing. My hair tumbles over my shoulder. Smells like Jeremy. Makes me smile. I knock again, ease the door open. Cynthia, you call me? Flames atop 2 candles sway above their silver holders. The holders are pushed back on the vanity, painting soot on the mirror. Fancy plates that Cynthia usually keeps under her bed wrapped in a velvet cloth is out. One of the plates is on the floor, half pushed under the vanity, mounded with gray chicken bones, thin as thistles. Rib bones are branched off a greasy spine. The leg bones still got the white crunchy gristle on the end. So she goes in, and it appears that Cynthia is sleeping on the bed. And suddenly Cynthia wakes up, and she says, "What the hell you doing walking in on me?" She pushes herself up, but falls back, pointing a bread roll at me like it's going to hold me in place. "You called me?" I said. She washes her hand over her face and says, "I called you a long time ago. Where were you?" "I knocked, but you was asleep." She strains her swollen eyes open, bends over her lap with her elbows on her knees. "I was shooting marbles," I say. "I can tell you lying, the way your voice just rose." She stretches both arms above her head, cracks her back. She sticks her finger in her ear and wiggles it around. "Next time you see me not waking, you come see if I'm dead before you go and wait over there with the wine." "Yes'm." I take the half-full bottle of wine from the vanity and pour her a glass before she even asks, and watch the dark purple color slide in. I give it to her, sit back at the vanity, and work at pushing the cork back in. "Just so you know," she say, "I wasn't asleep. I was praying. I don't never sleep, you remember that." "Yes, ma'am," I say. The cork is stuck sideways. She finishes her wine like a shot of whiskey. She say, "You think my mama's in hell?" My cork pops. "If there is one, I reckon she is," she say. She reaches her empty glass out to me to refill it. I say, "I thought you didn't believe in heaven or hell." I said, "If, and if I don't, come on, have a drink with me." "No, that's all right." "So you don't drink neither?" I don't answer. She raises her glass. "A toast to all you bitches who don't drink and think your shit don't stank. You know what special day it is today? Go on and guess." "Your birthday?" "Guess again." "Johnny's?" "Know what Yom Kippur is?" "No, ma'am." "A religious holiday," she say. "That's today. Started at sundown." She raises her glass again, sips. "I thought you weren't saved. Didn't believe in Jesus." She laughs. "Christians ain't the only ones that got religion. I'm a pure country Jew, and this is my day of atonement." "I thought you was white." "I am. Wrong kind of white for these folks." "And you said you didn't believe in nothing." "I can give God one day. Most of it, anyway." She drinks again, leaves a gulp at the bottom. "I'm supposed to be looking at things I could have done better this year. Repenting and asking God for forgiveness. Saying things like, 'I'm sorry I slapped my child. I won't do it again.' And apologize to people I wronged." Her breath catches. "If you think I wronged you, sorry." "You gonna give up whoring?" I say. "I'm talking about the shit I done wrong. What I do for them out there, I do right." She laughs. "God understands a girl's gotta make a living. That's my job, my business. Ain't nobody gonna give a woman work unless she's doing dishes, and I don't do dishes. I sure as hell ain't getting married neither. I'm doing me and my girls a favor, a chance to earn a living for ourselves." Her foot knocks the chicken bones off her plate and onto a book she got on the floor. She reaches down and picks it up, wipes the bone grease off. "What I hope is for God to forgive me for my wrong," she said. "Write my name in his book of life. Everybody's fate is sealed tomorrow." "What about me? What about you? You ain't Jewish." Anyway, so I wasn't expecting any Jews to show up in this book, but they did, so I turned that page down, and I thought I'd share it because it's Rosh Hashanah time. It's those days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur right now that they call the days of awe. So, timely. Rick, the other half of what we do in this show, of course, is music. And it looks like you have a guitar with you, which is
Yeah.
very convenient.
Yeah, I think I was warned.
What song are
So-
you going to share with us today?
Well, so I'll share Still Point, which
Okay.
is the song that came from. I introduce it normally as an ode to meditation and counting your blessings, because that's the message at least I could take and get into a song from that poem. So here we go. How's it? Hello, hello, hello. Yep.
Beautiful.
It's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Time now, time beckoning, time out of memory, glimpses of dreams not yet dead, reborn romance, second chances past reckoning, the future now is repaired. Here at the high mark where all waters rise, before they start falling away, widen the moment in front of your eyes. You can dance through all time in a day. Lamb in the oven and cinnamon, ginger and songs from your grandmother's heart. Easter time, family gathers for dinner. Take your place till they're ready to start. Early this morning out under the apple tree falls drops of dappling sun. Cidery air up to blossoms, cerulean. Grandfather's blessings begun. At a still point, I knew yearned to stay, but the world turns and it slips away. Gone now, the apple tree, long gone the family, raised in the home that they built in its place. You write to the strains of a loopy calliope, reaching for brass rings they no longer make. But you'll find an apple trees everywhere now. The forest and new fallen snow. Gull above beach cliff towers in Tuscany. a canyon floor. Breathe the sky down in, and again before each dip of the paddle, each flick of the pen, as God writes your name in his hand.
Stunning.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Glad
Simon
to be
says,
able to do that. Hi,
Simon
thank
says
you,
the
Simon.
song says mesmeric and Celia. So glad you chose this song. I am too. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Rick. So
Great.
many wonderful moments of imagery there, and the apples and the senses of the cinnamon and the snow. There's a whole feast of senses.
Yeah, yeah,
that's
and it's some people have said it's kind of impressionistic, and I think
Yeah.
it is. Uh, but and it holds together somehow. They're all either memories or well, and then there's some hope for the future. So yeah, I'm lucky to be able to get that song.
I'm curious about the brass ring in the song.
Well.
What's that line? The
Yeah,
brass ring that they no longer.
reaching for on the merry. I love to catch brass rings on the merry-go-round. The one that gets if you got the brass ring as you
Yeah.
circled, and there were steel rings, and there was one brass ring in the rack. And as you go by, you reach for a ring and take it. And if you get a brass ring, you get a free ride. That was the custom back
And
then.
the line in the song is brass rings they no longer make.
Yeah,
what
reaching
it-
for brass rings they no longer make. Well,
Yeah.
it's, well, you're reaching for rewards that, aren't quite, I mean, you were an encyclopedia salesman and you ran your life selling encyclopedias, and now that goal, is defunct. But in fact, the line came from, where was I think in Worcester. I had gone to sing in Worcester somewhere. And I was on my way out of Worcester, and there was construction on the interstate, so we got knocked off. And there was a big factory, machine shop, which was being redone into a mall. And somehow I learned the history that was the last, I must have Googled it or something.
Yeah.
That was the last place in New England where they made brass rings. So that's
Yes.
how it ended up in the song.
Yes. It's interesting how when you just kind of microscope into a single line, it's interesting to hear where that one comes
came
from.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an article I encountered a while back. I think I tore out the pages. I think it was in the New York Times Magazine about the last. It probably wasn't the last, but it was about a pencil factory.
Ooh.
And it was a great article with fantastic pictures, and it just like it filled me with. It was so fascinating to read about this pencil factory. It made me want more pencils in my life because I realized when I read that article that I probably didn't have any. I mean, really. So I actually now have some pencils here, and that was a direct result of that article. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
things have changed.
Yeah, and continue to. It's It's the way. Um, Anything else you want to say about that song before I share a song?
Ooh. Let's see. No, I think we'll let it rest. It enlivens me whenever I get to sing it because it came out of a time when I was ill and I didn't know I was ill yet, and I was lying down a lot. And I would lie down and they'd say, well, what are you going to do when you're lying down? Well, think of the best moments. Think of all the best moments in your life. And about that time, I read
Yes.
this thing about still point, and I was experimenting with meditation. Just a very simple
Yeah.
meditation, so I could see, and that another thing about where the song came from, I guess. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Let you, you want to let the listener make of it what they will.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. That last line now, though, I'm thinking about the last line of that song about God writing your name.
Yeah.
That seemed to relate to the passage that I read, and to that's something that people say a lot at this time of year in the Jewish tradition.
Oh. Hmm.
So, thought that was also appropriate for the time.
Right, right. And in fact, the word God appearing in a song, gets some people to blink, but
Yeah.
there is some, help in believing that there's a universal force of some kind that connects us all. So,
Hmm.
I don't know. At least I feel that way.
Interestingly, I also mentioned God in this song that I'm going to
Oh,
play.
good.
And this comes up in my songs a little bit, actually. This I was raised in a pretty religious household, and my brother calls it conservadox Judaism. We went to a conservative synagogue, but um, we had some pretty strict rules that we followed. Um, and I had a teacher in Hebrew school in fifth grade who said something, and I don't think that her intention was to cause me to start grappling with the question, is there a God, is there not a God? But whatever it is that she posed that day in Hebrew school kind of was the first seed of questioning for me about all of that stuff. And yet because I was just steeping in that world as a kid, it ends up kind of, the idea of God appears in some of my songs. So this is one of them. It's called Only Forever. And I'll tell you that part of it was, if you're familiar with Mary Oliver's poetry, part of that has ended up in this song, and also an American Indian artist by the name of Rick Bartow. I had recently visited his an art exhibit of his. So, how's the sound?
Great.
It's called Only Forever. And I waited for you. And I waited for you a long time. Stood outside the schoolyard, the swings twisting in the wind. And I prayed for you. And I prayed for you a long time, to chase you in the park, and try to catch you in a sprint. And things I know but cannot explain. How life is measured by what you lose and what you gain. And how to fight for what you treasure. Let it go when it's time to surrender. And how I love you only forever. You came to me. You grew up tall and gangly. I taught you how to swim. I taught you everything I know. But maybe God was lonely, or fate knew all along I'd protect you with my life. But Lord knows I'm not that strong. And things I know but cannot explain. How life is measured by what you lose and what you gain. And how to fight for what you treasure. Let it go when it's time to surrender. And how I love you only forever. They say wounds yield a purpose, and cracks bring the light. All I know is stone on the earth, angel in the sky. Things I know but cannot explain. How life is measured by what you lose and what you gain. And how to fight for what you treasure. Let it go when it's time to surrender. How I love you only forever. So that's that one. Thank you, Simon Petty. And with that, Rick.
Wow. Love the song. Haven't heard it.
Thank you. That was one of the songs that came out on my album, 1,000 Tiny Torches, that I released during COVID. It's in the middle of the album. It's sort of buried in there a little bit. Yeah, I don't play it all the time, but I like to play it sometimes.
I'll go back and listen. I have that album. So.
Yes.
But, I haven't been driving that much, and I only play music when I drive.
Driving is a great place for music, I know.
I've got to remedy that because I've got, I moved all the stuff down here and put speakers up. And I should keep music going all the time, I think, and I should keep reading prose and poetry going all the time. These things tumble around in you, and they come out when you try to write.
I know, and I think that as songwriters or perhaps artists, creators in general, we have to, it's a hard line. It's hard to find the balance between consumption and creation. And it's like we need to consume to inspire, and also just because we simply love that art form. Of course, that's what brought us to it. But then we also need time with our own thoughts and to let our own melodies and our own lyrical ideas, or just ideas in general, kind of roll around and you know, bump up against each other in the quiet of our own mind. It's a weird thing. As musicians, I think it's hard to know when to listen to music and when to turn it off.
Well,
You know?
and try to play it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, listen to what's in your head and try to get
Yeah.
it out onto an instrument.
Yeah. You're right. Driving is a great time to listen to music. If you like to cook, maybe that's a time. You know, put the music on when you're cooking.
Well,
Cook
maybe
yourself a
I
good
should
meal.
make that rule. I cook a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And maybe I should turn on some music while
Yeah.
I'm cooking.
Yeah. I love it. Rick, thank you so much for being here. It's been so delightful to get the chance to talk with you again, you know, one-on-one. I know that we've bumped into each other in some of the song circles during COVID, but
Right.
this is really nice to just have a
Great
conversation
to have
with
a long discussion, and
Yeah.
it was really pleasant.
you. Yeah.
So, thanks
Um,
a lot.
I hope to bump into you at the Far West Virtual Conference, and at the, I just registered for the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance as well, so NERFA.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So are you going
I'm
to?
registered for both of them,
I will hopefully see you then.
and I hope to get there. But I feel, boy, it's been I've gone to NERFA for years, and it's been such an event.
I know,
And,
NERFA is, yeah,
it
it is.
feels a little funny to, new rules and submissions, and
Yeah.
so. But now I've got some time now to set up for both of these.
Yeah,
So.
I know. Pretty much everything is new. It's like we liked it the way it was, but we
Yeah.
don't have a choice. We don't have a choice, and so it's like, okay, well, let's what's the new thing that's
Figure out who to contact. and how.
exactly
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Well,
Goodness
great.
gracious.
Thank
There
you
we
so
go.
much.
Okay, sorry to turn my back on you there for a second.
Yeah. No, that's all
Thank you, Rick. And I'll see you in the green room in a moment. And
Okay.
I will come over here and just say thank you guys for listening. So great to have some of you guys chime in. Thank you for being here. You know, a lot of times as songwriters, we would bump into each other in between sets. We'd play shows together, sound check, afterwards hang out at the merch booth together. Great conversations happen in those places, and obviously not so much right now. And so this has been a really great way for me to have the opportunity to talk with other songwriters. And I love that, you know, a lot of these songwriters, I you know, it's like we email each other afterwards, and you know, have started to book shows together. So it's really nice. Speaking of great songwriters, next week, episode 69, Tracy Newman is my guest for the show next week. She is a delightful human being. I can't wait to talk with her. So I hope to see you. If you are celebrating the Jewish holidays, L'Shana Tova to you. And if you are simply celebrating the beginning of the new academic year, good luck. Keep your pencils sharp and your mind sharper. If you are around in the LA area, I would love to see you at this very low capacity outdoor house concert on September 19th. Find information for that and everything else at my Linktree or my website, ArielleSilver.com. So see you next time. Take care.